The Eastern Caribbean has a high likelihood of impacts from a tropical system this weekend. I've got a special update for you right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. Good to see you on this Thursday morning. Coming up, I have a special update video where we're going to focus in on this invest area in the Central Atlantic with a high likelihood of development and impacts for the Lesser Antilles as we get into the weekend. Of course, I'm going to have the full forecast video for the entire Caribbean and the Bahamas coming up in the afternoon hours. But you know, here at Meteo Mundo, when it's necessary, I'm going to come on and do special video updates. We'll go live if we have to. We'll have our 24/7 channel running as well when it's necessary. But so much has changed with this area since I last saw you yesterday afternoon. Had to come on and talk about this because, first of all, there's a much higher likelihood we're going to get a tropical system, and the models have trended this to be stronger as well. You'll note that from the Hurricane Center, this area is now in red. We've gone from a 40% chance of development yesterday afternoon to a 70% chance on this Thursday morning. And again, the models are trying to make this stronger as well. It's located, this invest, and this is an invest now, 95L, about 1,700 miles to the east of the Lesser Antilles. So let's take a look at the here and now with what's happening with Invest 95L. First of all, note a pretty good blow up of thunderstorms near the broad center of circulation. We don't have a closed center. Everything is still relatively disorganized, but that being said, the environment does look conducive for relatively quick development out of this invest. Right now, the pressure is 1,011 millibars, maximum winds around some of the thunderstorms 30 miles an hour, motion is to the west at around 15 miles an hour. But again, already some good moisture off towards the south, relatively good outflow as well. This is the enhanced satellite imagery. When I show you the water vapor imagery here, I want you to note there's a little bit of drier air up to the north, but that's actually going to aid things with the potential development of this and not really stop this from developing, because what's really happening is just to the north of this invest, we have a mid-level area of high pressure. And of course, you get clockwise winds, anticyclonic winds around an area of high pressure. This is producing very little wind shear, an extremely favorable environment as this traverses the Atlantic basin to continue to develop. We've already mentioned how the ocean temperatures are very, very hot for this time of the year. And the Hurricane Center even noted that the central and the western Atlantic is unusually conducive for tropical storm development for late June. Again, this is typically these waves we watch in August and September and October. So this is very early in the season to have one with a high likelihood of development. But there you go, friends. That's what it looks like. Let's look at the satellite imagery as far as the Viz satellite imagery. Love to show you this high resolution imagery here. Of course, we get the daylight popping on and we'll see some of these shadows coming in, but nice little blow up of storms here. Relatively good outflow already on the north side. And again, ample moisture off towards the south. The bottom line is everything, again, continues to show signs that as we go through today and tomorrow, we're going to continue to see this organized, and certainly within the next 24 hours, we can have ourselves a tropical depression and then developing further from there. Because we have an invest, we do have our tropical models running. So let's take a look at those. These are the main tropical models here, these spaghetti plots, as we call them. First of all, I want you to notice a couple of things. They're relatively tightly clustered already, okay, through portions of the southern Lesser Antilles. Places like St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada encompass most of the track from the main spaghetti plot models. There's of course a few outliers, and of course nothing is set in stone, but Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, a few models bend it a little bit quicker to the north faster, and there's one model that takes a little bit further to the south towards Trinidad and Tobago, and then Nueva Esparta there on the northern coast of South America. But you get the idea that we already have a relatively clustered area of models here, and I'm going to show you the European model coming up as well, but I can already tell you it is right in agreement with these main global models. So let's take a look, first of all, at a couple of different things here. We're going to switch over and look at the reflectivity, and then we're going to look at the winds out of this. This is the GFS model. Now, both main global models, the GFS and the European, have trended to a stronger storm. Quicker development, stronger storm moving through the Lesser Antilles late Sunday and into Monday. So we'll first of all look at the reflectivity. Of course, this is the broad perspective for you here. You can see that beginning to work its way into the southern side of the Lesser Antilles as we move through our Sunday. This is Sunday at 5 o'clock. And again, it's just a snapshot, you know. There can and will be changes with this, but the models have been in relatively good agreement with the track and the timing of this. And again, the GFS model is going to make this a little bit stronger as it moves through the islands. So certainly, again, on this, Martinique and St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, and Grenada need to be paying very close attention. But honestly, all of the Lesser Antilles and the Eastern Caribbean in general. I would imagine that we're going to start getting some messaging from local governments. And so if you live in these areas and you start getting some local government and official messaging on this system, make sure you heed that. And obviously you're going to want to keep a very close eye on this as it moves into the Eastern Caribbean early on Monday. And unfortunately, of course, it's not just going to go away as it passes the Lesser Antilles. Down the road, we might be having to talk about impacts for places like Puerto Rico and Hispaniola and Jamaica. But that's a little bit down the road. We'll talk more about the here and now at this point in time. If we look at the winds, again, the trend unfortunately has this to become a stronger system here. I'm going to get rid of the formation zone. Now, if you joined me yesterday, this is the same product I showed you yesterday on the GFS model. I'm going to let that loop through. And by the way, there is another weaker system that might be tailing this one in a 48-hour period, but hopefully the upwater, the cold upwelling of the waters here of the ocean should keep that second one much weaker. But yesterday, we saw a system that had 55-mile-an-hour winds on the GFS. When we plot this, and I've got to jump back here in time to be able to plot this real quick, so let me pull that back on. If we plot out these winds as they move to Barbados on the GFS model, you're starting to see a stronger tropical storm. And that's been the overall development of the models, is to make this a stronger tropical storm. Some of them make this a hurricane, and I don't say that loosely at all. If you guys know me, not a lot of hype here, but looking at the trends, a lot of them make this a stronger tropical storm and potentially even a Category 1 hurricane. So if we look at the GFS model compared to yesterday, instead of 50 and 55-mile-an-hour winds just east of Barbados, now we're getting 65, close to 70-mile-an-hour winds. Let's stair-step this as it moves closer to Barbados and over St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Lucia. And again, back over to what the model is showing as far as winds here. And it's about the same scenario, very high-end tropical storm in this area, okay? Again, we'll keep an eye on the model trends, but certainly the GFS and even the European has made this stronger. And again, it holds together as it moves west of the Lesser Antilles, okay? So again, one more snapshot, kind of a broader view. I'll bring back on the plot here so you guys can see it as far as winds go. Now again, based on this, there's still gonna be some impacts, obviously farther up towards the north, gonna be very fresh winds. But again, we don't want to focus on one point at this point in time. We want to look at the model trends, and there is a cluster of models here, and then you can see the winds. Anywhere south of here, the winds are going to be much lighter, but very strong easterlies anywhere north of wherever that center decides to go. So that's the GFS model. Here's the European model. If you look at the black line, that is the ensemble mean. I want you to notice it is very, very similar to what's happening on the GFS model as far as trek. Obviously, there's going to be outliers. There are some farther to the north, some farther to the south, but already a pretty tight cluster in the southern side of the Lesser Antilles. Now, this is the strength, okay? The black line is the ensemble mean, okay? So if you're looking at that black line, the ensemble mean is 63 knots. That's just below that green line, which is Category 1 strength. So the ensemble mean of the European model has this becoming a very high-end tropical storm. But several ensemble members have this becoming a hurricane. Most are clustered in the tropical storm strength, and that's where we want it to stay. But Tropical Storm Beryl is more than likely going to be developing out of this invest area. And again, the trends have just gotten stronger even just the last 12 hours. So this is something I want to be watching for. When I come back on this afternoon, we'll take a look at this again and see what both the GFS and the European model have been highlighting as far as changes from this video. So for the invest in the Atlantic, these are the areas that need to monitor. All of the Lesser Antilles, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago in particular, but all the Lesser Antilles need to certainly be very vigilant. Again, if we start getting some local, official government, messaging, I'll pass that along, but that's also your responsibility to make sure you pay attention to what's being said locally in your area. North coast of South America, including Nueva Esparta, and then eventually down the road, maybe the ABC Islands, maybe Puerto Rico, maybe Hispaniola, the Virgin Islands, maybe Jamaica. We'll just have to see how this moves as it goes to the west of the Lesser Antilles. Of course, friends, we have a lot of other things happening as well. We have this invest area, and there's been a ton of storms in Jamaica. They got a ton of wind and dust yesterday, and then they've been hammered. So in the video this afternoon, we're going to cover all of this. This more than likely isn't going to develop, but it is going to be a very wet, stormy system for the Western Caribbean. And then, of course, keeping a very close eye on this area as well. So I will see you back this afternoon with the full forecast video across the Caribbean and the Bahamas. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you this afternoon right here at Meteo Mundo.